How realistic is the car handling in Forza Horizon 6? Can you use real-world driving techniques? And is this more than just a simcade driving game? What I have to say will likely be deeply traumatic to both sim racers and arcade game fans alike. But in order to unsubscribe in disgust and anger, you first have to be a subscriber. So subscribe to unsubscribe, click the like button, and of course, as always, thank you to all our channel members, supporters, Patreon members. Without you, we wouldn't be able to ruin the internet to the degree that we do. In some ways, Forza Horizon 6 has some surprisingly realistic aspects to its handling. Now, don't be mistaken, guys, it's obviously a simcade title, it's obviously not trying to be a simulator, and it's obviously designed to be a generally fun game that's fun to play on a gamepad and a wheel. There are things in this game, like there's a sort of baked-in stability control, there's definitely like baked sort of drift mechanics where it goes from grip to the drift slip and it kind of recovers itself a bit, and you can absolutely whelly and lean on the tyres and take corners faster by really aggressively driving, which I think is really good fun, but you can really overdrive. It wants you to overdrive to actually get the performance and go deep into corners much of the time. However, really interestingly, you can also drive this in quite a simulator way and get quite a realistic behaviour from the vehicles. First things first, if you want to get somewhat realistic behaviour from the vehicles, check out our force feedback setting guide. It's on our Patreon, and we've also done a force feedback settings video where I explain how we set the force feedback up and the wheel to make it sort of feel as close to a simulator or just get the detail from it. But also, set your wheel to sim steering. And also, what you need to do is go into the car setup and make sure you've got the brake bias set up so you need to add it to each car annoyingly, but then move the brake bias back a bit, because by default, pretty much all the cars in this game are very much on the understeery side. But if you move the brake bias back, that immediately makes them oversteer quite nicely on the braking and allows you to use trail braking techniques that you would normally only really use in more realistic games. Of course, you can also change diff settings and other things and go more advanced into it, make the cars more leery, which is really quite nice, but not necessarily needed. Just the brake bias, 5-minute jobby, super easy to do, gets you nice oversteer on the braking. But yeah, it's actually quite interesting that even the car setup stuff on this is quite similar to what you'd find in a simulator and does kind of do what you'd expect it to do. More downforce, gets you more bite, balance of the downforce, diff settings, more open diff makes it looser. It's actually quite good. For an arcade game, it's actually got quite deep physics. So, keeping in mind it is an arcade game designed for the gamepad, not meant to be a hardcore simulator, what you find, and what I find really nice, and this is one of the things why I really like Wreckfest 2 actually, is that you can, even as a more experienced sim racer, as someone that's done a lot of driving, and someone that's got nice equipment, you can benefit from that equipment and more realistic driving and put those techniques to use in this game. So I really think that's fantastic when you've got a game that's a balance such that you can play it in a very arcadey way, jump in, or if you've got more sort of granular technique and you like car control, you can still enjoy using those skills that you've developed. And you'll notice here, if I'm trail braking into the corner, we can rotate the car into the corner. Trail braking is where you keep the brake on through the corner. You're basically turning the car more by holding a bit of brake on. That keeps the weight of the car forwards, and you're slowing the car as you're going into the corner. Normally in simulators, that would normally let you go into a corner a bit faster, and you're still taking speed away whilst you're going through the corner rather than all before the corner. But it also means that the front of the car is loaded in, so you often can get a bit more extra control from the front of the car. You can actually trail brake quite nicely in this. It's not necessarily the fastest way to drive. A lot of times you're better off just going too fast into a corner and allowing the magic grip to catch the car. But with the brake bars further back, you will notice that you can really avoid getting stuck in understeer in this by using the brake pedal quite carefully, not just slamming the brake on. And it's really quite satisfying. You can actually take corners quite nice and granular. Also, before you saw we did quite a big slide there, quite a big snappy slide. Before you get into big slides in this, you'll also find that you've got quite nice granular control of the vehicle under the limit, like quite well within the tyre's grip. And then you can, using the force feedback, you can feel where that grip is quite nicely, which is absolutely fantastic and much more analogous to sort of real-world road driving. If you're doing like tow driving, you're not going too crazy, but you're not doing 133 on a general road. You can enjoy that kind of just tidy driving. It's a little bit of a shame, I think, that the roads are like 3,000 miles wide. Like each of these, this road is like a bloody Gatwick airport. It's the runway, the main runway at Gatwick or Heathrow. Fantastic if this was a flight sim and you had an engine failure. You could land on any road and you would have plenty of space. But it kind of means that, I mean, look at this. You could fit 3 cars down here. This would be a dream if the roads in Devon were like this. But kind of means you don't really actually benefit from having this granular control. Because the road's so wide, you don't even need it that much, which is it's quite funny. But yeah, it's quite satisfying actually trying to drive this in a somewhat realistic way. Now, what you will notice is the handling of this is quite drawn out and sloppy in many ways. If you play more realistic racing simulators, as I say, the original Assetto Corsa 1, which is what's mostly used in industry, AC1, Automobilista 1 and R-Factor 2, but AC1 is like the most used training tool for real-world drivers. We'll have a video soon about one of the training centres that a lot of drivers use in the UK for training for Formula. But yeah, AC1, what you'll find is that those more realistic simulators, everything's just a lot tighter, a lot more responsive. Same with Automobilista 1, same with Richard Burns Rally, the sort of more realistic sims. Everything happens a lot faster, a lot quicker. So when you turn, you see the car responding to the turn. In those more realistic sims, it's just so much tighter, and you'll find that in a real car as well, unless it's a really... Obviously, if you're a crappy road car on worn-out tyres in bad conditions, it can be very sloppy, but... a proper sim is just a lot tighter. Not necessarily too much tighter in the initial steering, but especially when it comes to like the throttle and counter steer. This is just very drawn out. It means you've got in Forza, you have a lot of time to counter steer. The car responds to it. You're not having to quickly snap counter steer to stop a spin, which is what you will have to do in a race car, a more realistic simulator. Obviously, when it comes to... Thanks for subscribing. When it comes to realistic race cars and real life, different tyres, different cars, different setup, different conditions really massively affect how things behave. But on balance, realistic sims and real cars are just infinitely more responsive. And then, as I say, on the throttle, what you really notice with this is that the throttle behaviour is really, really drawn out. You can absolutely welly the throttle on this without too much worry for the back of the car stepping out too much. Weirdly, though, at low speed, it is quite sensitive in this, but at higher speeds, it's a lot less sensitive. In some ways, that makes sense because the car's already up to speed, and you might have downforce, and that changes things. But this is, to me, being a bit of a nerd, to me, it feels like this is using a Pajeka-based tyre model, because it has some of the behaviours that are familiar to me with Pajeka-based simulators. Automobilista 1, R-Factor 1. I'm not sure what other sims use Pajeka-based tyres. It's a very common way of doing slip curves and modelling tyres in video games and simulators. One thing you notice in this is if you lose grip on all 4 wheels, which I'm going to find very hard to get going, it can keep, especially if you're at moderately high speed and you lose grip on all 4 wheels, it will just keep sliding for a really, really long time without re-gripping in quickly. wasn't actually too bad that time. But there's aspects of that really stand out as a sort of Pajenka thing. Might just be in my head. I don't know what physics they use here. But you will notice as well, when you do lose the rear of the car and it steps out, there definitely seems to be some kind of like baked stability and correction of the car, especially if you're off the gas, which I think is quite good. Makes sense as a sort of arcadey mechanic. Makes the car more approachable, makes it a lot easier to avoid just spinning, which a lot of people really struggle with. There you go, that was more like the type of slide I was talking about with the Pajenka stuff. You also notice on this has like really good stability on the brake. You can brake really, really hard, fully lock up, and the car's still super stable and also still super responsive to the steering input, even when you're braking. Absolutely ridiculous. I went too far there, though. You still have to be careful. You still can't completely push it, which I think is quite nice, but it's very, very accommodating in terms of allowing you to, on tarmac, to brake far too hard, even with the brake bar set back as we have, and it not be too crazy, not do like an instant spin, which is, if you broke with the brake bars really far back on many real cars, your car would potentially just spin very quickly, especially if you didn't counter steer. And it's the same at low speed on throttle with many cars, especially maybe like this, well, maybe not this car in real life, but like an Aerial Atom, for example, in real life. If you get on the throttle really hard with a lot of steering input, it literally just spins. It'll just snap spin. So yeah, it's just sort of dialed down and made more comfortable. But yeah, I mean, I've been pretty critical about the general single player in this game and the point structure, and also the fact the wheel support is a bit lame to set up initially. A lot of people with Moses and some other wheels, I think SimuCubes and VRS, they're having issues with the game detecting the wheel, doing force feedback and the device numbering. There's a lot of issues with this game. It's a bit dull to play in terms of single player. The points are just always on the screen. You can hide them, but it's just points for doing great skill train, near miss. Just a load of nonsense. Just only have points for drifting or doing cool stuff like Project Gotham Racing did back 300 years ago. I've been very critical of stuff in this, but I think the handling is really, really nicely done. For an arcade game, it's absolutely superb once you've dialed it in. I'm a big fan of stuff like this. Like Wreckfest 2 is another simulator racing game. Again, has like a really well done simcade handling where you can benefit from using real-world driving skills, but also it's accommodating. It's really fun. It's fun to hold drifts. It's fun to slide around. Now we're on the dirt here with a car that's obviously suited to beach driving. This is what I really like in the handling in Forza Horizon 6, is the off-road handling. Don't really matter what car you're driving, but it's particularly nice in the cars which have a bit of downforce. The off-road mechanics in this, and the way that you can sort of hold the slides through corners, I've just lost control because I'm an idiot, is really nice and satisfying, especially when you're doing off-road racing and using the throttle to sort of continue a slide going. And you also have the ability to like actually get the rears sort of spinning up more, and you're really powering through a corner like a rallycross or something, and then applying the counter steer and balancing it a bit. It's a little bit canned, a little bit baked. I do think Wreckfest 2 actually does off-road stuff a little bit better in some ways, but I love how this feels to drive off-road, and the force feedback and the rumble. What it really reminded me of as well was like the old Sega Rally games from the 90s. You're probably too young to remember those or know about those. But yeah, I really like this sort of controllable, slidey off-road handling with forgiving oversteer. Maybe it's a bit of automatic counter steer. But even with the wheel, it's just really nice, really fun to just slide the car around, give it a bit too much, and just balance it. It doesn't matter if you're in onboard or chase cam. You can use the brake as well to also steer. Steering with the brake and the accelerator is a big thing that you expect from more realistic simulators. So if you're more experienced at driving, you don't just turn the car with the wheel. You're like turning, getting an initial movement, and then using the throttle to continue that slide whilst basically holding the wheel. You're just using the wheel as a way to slightly adjust. And you can also do stuff like hold the brake there to initially get the back of the car out. Again, it's a sort of form of trail braking, but off-road, or just weight shifting using the brake. And you also find with this, it's worth actually having a handbrake to do handbrake turns and slides from handbrake turns. So really, absolutely fantastic, to be honest, the handling mechanics. That's why I really want to make this video, because I really love this kind of stuff. From a game design perspective, I love games that allow everybody to enjoy it. People that just want a gamepad arcade racer and still have deep control with granular input and precise brake and accelerator, but also if you've got a nice wheel and you've got nice pedals, you can enjoy the experience as well. It's absolutely fantastic. So whoever did the input on this and the basic car physics, absolutely bloody good job. Shame about the single player, shame about the dialogue, shame about the point system, shame about the AI, but the car implementation, the physics, really good. That's too many compliments. Hopefully you enjoyed this video though, guys. Appreciate all the new subscribers, appreciate everyone clicking the like button. Check out our Patreon if you want to support us. You can join it for free as well. We put guides and force feedback stuff on there. But yeah, there you go, guys. Not much more to say. Worth trying this out. I wouldn't pay full price for it, but it's good fun to play through and mess around and race with your friends and do offline, online racing in it. Till the next one though, guys, happy tea drinking, take care, and goodbye.